Okay, this is my quick response to Akobadageth white genes. Dr. Akobadageth tells me that the Ethiopian population is not a good comparison because the Ethiopian population has many unmixed people. Basically what he's trying to tell me is that the Ethiopian population has pure negroids. That's funny because I know in the earlier video he mentioned that the reason why Ethiopians were a successful civilization was due to caucasiod mixture, due to the fact, or no, not due to the fact, but due to his contention or his thinking that these type of negroids mixed with some type of caucasoids. So I find that very funny. But anyways, okay, that's fine. We won't use Ethiopia. We'll use the example you call Eritrea. Eritrea, Ethiopia's brother country, still fails to beat Kenya, Jamaica. Well, Jamaica's not an African country, but it's mostly black. Kenya, Uganda, Zimbabwe. It still fails to beat many of the countries that have obviously more negroid genes in them. I mean, Kenya, there's no African country that's 100% negroid. I mean, whites go to all these African countries, to live. Okay, so there's no such thing. There's probably no such thing as a pure white caucasoid nation. But in practical terms, there's not much intermixture in the Kenyan race or the Sudanese race, and all these countries have higher IQs than the Eritreans. I can't even pronounce it, but it's that country that is right beside Ethiopia. So I don't get that, and I also don't get how he can compare African Americans to fucking sub-Saharan blacks. I mean, I don't think that's a fair comparison, or that's an accurate comparison. First of all, many sub-Saharan blacks are in fucking tribes. Okay, so they have never went to any type of schooling, and I don't care what you say. IQ is not just. I mean, education does influence IQ to a point. Okay, they gotta at least go to school. Okay, some of these tribes have never went to school. Okay, so I don't get that comparison. Second of all, their school system is severely inferior to the African American population. So I don't get that. We're talking about comparing African blacks, which have tribal societies, to African Americans who have higher education, can go to college, have far more resources to solve abstract problems, to be successful on the IQ test in those skills, because they have far more resources. Like they can play chess, they can, they have probably have more books, they have TV. I mean, in Africa, there's clearly a disproportionate amount of that society that does not have that. I mean, there's some modernization, but there's far more. It's significantly higher in the African black population to have, not to have a TV, not to have internet, not to have chess games. So, if you want to talk about apples to oranges, why don't we talk about that? By the way, I'll just go over my little rebuttal that I wrote. You said that Morocco is apples to oranges to compare to African Americans, when Morocco is not a tribal society, and Morocco is actually is far more advanced than Africa. What you should have to compare two racially different groups in similar environments, not two racially different groups or two racially different groups in distinct environments. Okay, I'm sure you're educated, and I'm sure that you know that, but somehow you didn't get that. So, yes, comparing Moroccans to African Americans is a legit comparison because their environment is far more comparable than comparing African Americans to sub-Saharan blacks, which many of them live in tribes. And you contend that, the Moroccans are not white. Well, a lot of the Moroccans are white. There are white Moroccans. And it's safe to say that since they're near Spain, and since Spain conquered them, I believe, it doesn't really matter, but since Spain, I think, conquered them, or at least has interacts with them far more than, negroids, Moroccans have far more caucasoid genes than African Americans. Okay, even white caucasoid genes. It doesn't really matter because caucasoid genes, you said, that are superior to negroid genes in intelligence. So, we're just grasping at straws here. They're far more caucasoid. They should have superior genes, and on the IQ test, they score exactly the same. How do you explain that? You really can't say that, I'm not using a statistical, I'm not making a fair comparison here in terms of population. The African American population is 26 million people. That counts as a country in many parts of the world. So I still don't see that. I have not seen an adequate explanation of that. You're just trying to say that, lighter skinned blacks inherently have a higher IQ than darker skinned blacks. But yet, if you take the African American population, which is mixed more than the negroid population in Africa, but is less white and less caucasoid than the Moroccan population, we see an equal IQ. That's not some nitpicking I'm doing. That's just a brutal flaw in your argument. That's not just an exception I'm going to just overlook. That's huge. You can sit there and act like it's not a point. And actually, one of your white nationalist friends or one of your buddies conceded that it was a point. I just don't think you have the integrity to do that. But anyways, let's look at some of these other more caucasoid nations that the African American population, which is more negroid than these more caucasoid countries, beats in IQ. Oh, let's see. Iran has a far more caucasoid population, or caucasoid mixture, than the African American population, but it beats Iran in IQ by 1 point. Egypt, hey, I'll concede, Egyptians are white, right? So therefore, they should have more Caucasian genes. 83 IQ, beats them by 2 points. You really can't say that use the excuse, well, they're poor and they have an inferior education system. No. The Arab Empire was very sophisticated. They built Timbuktu, so mathematics and all that other type of things, it was just as sophisticated as the West. So you can't use that as an excuse. It's a fair comparison. Let's see. Lebanon, which is obviously a far more Caucasoid population. Although they're Arab, they're still considered by you Caucasoid, or by the anthropologist Caucasoid. They have straight hair. They're far more they look white far more than pure Negroids or even African Americans. They're Middle Easterners that can be taken as white. Just take for instance, what's her name, Kim Kardashian. Hot babe Kim Kardashian. She's considered by some people white. She has a Middle Eastern look, so sorry, buddy. These people gotta be compared. Iran, Egypt, and Lebanon, which have far more Caucasoid genes in them, can't beat the Negroid in IQ. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Lebanon beats the American Negroid by 1